With the NBA draft being less than a week away, today I released my final NBA mock draft of the season. So this will be 3.0. I'm doing all 60 picks again this time. So let's get started with what's probably obvious. The first overall pick, the 76ers, go with Ben Simmons, the forward out of LSU. Now, I first did not agree with this one at first. I even made a video about why I don't think Ben Simmons should be picked number one. I got some criticism from it, but I've come to terms that there's a almost 100% chance he will be the number one overall pick. In fact, I will say about 99.8%, because there's a 0.2% out there, because he is yet to work out with the 76ers. So could that really mean something? Is he trying to not want to be drafted by the 76ers? We'll soon find out. Then at number 2, I have the Los Angeles Lakers with Brandon Ingram, the shooting forward out of Duke. I feel like Brandon Ingram's probably more NBA rated than Ben Simmons is. Brandon Ingram's had the opportunity to play in the big times of college basketball. He's even played against quality NBA prospects as well. So I feel like Ingram's more ready than Simmons is, to be honest. That's just my honest opinion. At number 3, I have the Celtics with Jamal Murray, the shooting guard out of Kentucky. I think he's going to be one of those underrated prospects, because Jamal Murray can shoot the three-pointer so efficiently and so wonderfully. Because I saw Jamal Murray a lot this season, and I kind of liked what I saw. If I was starting an NBA franchise, I want Jamal Murray on my team. I'd want to be in one of my starting 5 rotations. Then number 4, the Suns going with Dragan Bender, the power forward out of Bosnia, the Croatian player. I think Dragan Bender's an underrated prospect as well. I think he's being underlooked. I think he's going to be really successful after about a year or two. I don't think he's going to be dominant right away. Although I do get Kristaps Porzingis vibes from Dragan Bender. At number 5, I have the Timberwolves going with Buddy Hield, the shooting guard out of Oklahoma. Now, there are some mock drafts that have Buddy Hield going 3rd overall. But I think 5th overall is just right for Buddy Hield. Because I think he'll find a home in Minnesota. I think he's going to be real successful, especially with Ricky Rubio on that team. And Zach LaVine. I think the Timberwolves are going to rebuild a bunch this year with Buddy Hield. I think Buddy Hield will probably see the court if Tom Thibodeau decides to play him. Number 6, I have the Pelicans going with Kris Dunn, the point guard out of Providence. Some people thought he should have come out last year. But him coming back, it really helped his draft stock, in my opinion. I think he'll make some good plays with Anthony Davis and Ryan Anderson. Number 7, I have the Nuggets with Henry Ellison, the power forward and center out of Marquette. The Nuggets, this is a valuable pick for them because he has 2 attributes. He can play the power forward or the center. I think that's just a wonderful pick for the Nuggets. They're getting a huge 2-dimensional player in Ellison. Then we have the Kings with Jaylen Brown, the shooting guard of California. Now, he wasn't able to play in March Madness, unfortunately, because he had an injury. Could that have affected his stock? Maybe a couple of picks. In some mock drafts, he was number 4 or 5 overall, but no, being 8 overall. I think this is perfect for him, because he's staying in the state of California. Number 8, I have the Raptors with Jakob Poeltl, power forward of Utah. Now, he's another one of those 2-dimensional players. He can also play the power forward or the center. Especially with his size, he could play center most of the time. That way, if they can't resign Biyombo, or something happens to Jonas, he can be there to play center. Number 10 of the Bucks with Marquese Kris, the power forward out of Washington. I didn't get to see much of him, but what I've seen on his tapes, he can shoot the ball really well. He can get inside the paint real well. But could his size be an issue? Number 11 on the match with Deyonta Davis, the power forward out of Michigan State. Kind of an underrated player because he because he was getting kind of overshadowed by Denzel Valentine and Bryn Forbes and Matt Costello. He's one of those players that's a really good, but he's overshadowed by other players. Number 12, the Jazz going with Furkan Korkmaz, the shooting guard of Turkey. Now, we don't really get to watch a lot of these foreign players play live. But we can only see what they have online on their tapes on YouTube. But Korkmaz, he's a good player. I think he's going to be really underrated. He'll fit in with the Jazz soon. Number 13, I have the Suns going with Domantas Sabonis, the power forward out of Gonzaga. Some think he's not a lottery pick, but when I saw him in March Madness, he played like a lottery pick. His size is a good attribute. Although he's got to work on mid-range jumper shots. Like, he can get layups and dunks really well. Just got to work on the mid-range. Number 14, the Bulls going with Skal, Labissiere, the power forward of Kentucky. The Bulls need a big man. They need somebody with size like Labissiere, especially if they're unable to resign Joakim Noah or Jimmy Butler. They need somebody with size, and Skal Labissiere fits the bill. Number 15, I have the Nuggets going with Wade Baldwin, shooting guard at Vanderbilt. I got to see him a couple times, especially when they played against Texas A&M. He's a really great shooter. He can shoot the perimeter really well. The Nuggets are getting a good shooter in Baldwin. Number 16, the Celtics going with Ante Zizic, the center of Croatia. Now, I'm going to kind of foreshadow a little bit. The Celtics, this may be just a pick for the Celtics to set up one of the blockbuster trades that they've been talking about. In fact, I did whether they were going to trade the number 3 pick, but I don't see them doing that anymore. But this could be the pick that they just set up for a trade, maybe to get a veteran. Number 6 on the Grizzlies going Timothy Lawal, shooting guard of France. Maybe he's being used for a trade as well. Number 18 I have the Pistons with Malachi Richardson, the shooting guard of Syracuse. Now, I don't believe he was this high in my last mock draft. In fact, I don't even think he was in the first round at all. But after seeing him more, he kind of grew on me into a prospect that can be in the mid-first round. Number 19, the Nuggets with Ivica Zubac, the center of Croatia. The Nuggets already drafted, well, if this is accurate, which it probably isn't, Henry Ellison, power forward or center. Two-dimensional player. Maybe they're adding Zubac for size, or they're setting up for a trade as well. Number 20, I have the Pacers going with Taurean Prince, a shooting forward of Baylor. There are some people that think he could fall out of the top 20, but I think the Pacers are going to take the opportunity to get him. He could rebound really well. Hey, he even complains about rebounds. He even emulates what a rebound is. If you don't see that hilarious interview after he lost to Yale describing the rebounds, you should watch it. He just beautifully emulated what a rebound was. It was just such a wonderful speech. Or a wonderful answer. At number 21, I have my Atlanta Hawks going with Bryce Johnson, the power forward of North Carolina. At this point, it's kind of a steal. Because Bryce Johnson can do a lot. He's got the size. He can shoot from the perimeter. Shoot the long-range 3. He can do it all. Number 22, you could consider this a steal, but this person is falling because of an apparent knee injury, but Denzel Valentine, the shooting guard of Michigan State. I believe my last mock draft, I had him as a lottery pick. And in fact, maybe in last year's draft, he could have been a top 10 pick. But with this apparent knee injury, it's causing teams to pass up on him. But I think the Hornets are going to end the passing. I think they're going to take a chance on Denzel Valentine because they're getting a really talented player. Number 23, I have the Celtics going with Don Maker, the center out of Australia. Now, I did say earlier that the Celtics, that a pick in Ante Zizic could just be a setup for a trade, because they're going to definitely want Don Maker, because Don Maker, he's being portrayed as these once in every couple of years type of player. Because Don Maker had offers to go to colleges, but he just put his name in the NBA draft. So I think the Celtics are going to stick with Don Maker and probably trade Zizic. Maybe some of these teams are going to give up somebody for for Zizic. But let's find out. 76ers, Demetrius Jackson, the point guard of Notre Dame. I don't know, that could be something. Although the 76ers are considering trading Nerlens Noel and or Jahlil Okafor. So maybe that could be something. And then at 25, they have the Clippers going with Tyler Ulis, the point guard out of Kentucky. Because Ulis is just the team player. Any team will want him. At this point, it's just a steal if you're grabbing Ulis. Number 26, I have the 76ers going with DeAndre Bembry, the shooting forward the small forward out of St. Mary's. And then at 27, I have the Raptors going with Cheick Diallo, the center out of Kansas. He'll probably, if he ends up with the Raptors, he'll probably be a solid bench player. He'll probably get solid minutes to start the season. Then the Sun, 20 out of the Suns going with Diamond Stone, the center of Maryland. 29 of the Spurs going with Zhou Qi, the center out of China. Which in my last mock draft I had him just in the beginning of the second round, but I think he's going to sneak into the first round come draft night. At number 30, I have the Warriors going with Ben Bintel, power forward out of Providence. Now I would have had the Warriors going with the shooter here, but I think they're going to need to focus. They could trade this pick away, kind of clear some money for Harrison Barnes, but we will see. And now the second round. So it starts at pick 31 with the Celtics. I going with Steven Zimmerman, the center of UNLV. So at this point, the Celtics have now drafted 3 centers. They've drafted Zizic, they've drafted Thonmaker, and they have drafted now Steven Zimmerman. Now Steven Zimmerman has the first round talent. So I would envision maybe, just maybe, they will trade Steven Zimmerman too. Because they could trade Zimmerman. Maybe they're getting something out of it. Like maybe they'll trade maybe the Lakers, maybe for some cash. Maybe they're going to try to get some cash to sign Kevin Durant or something. We have no idea what any team is going to be doing until draft night. Number 32, the Lakers going with Dejounte Murray, the point guard of Washington. And many people thought he could have been a lottery pick. He's got the talent as a lottery pick. But I just don't see him in the first round. I see him going in the first couple of picks in the second round. Number 33, the Clippers going with Patrick McCaw, shooting guard of UNLV. Number 34, I have the Suns with Malik Beasley, the shooting guard of Florida State. Now, the only thing that's stopping Malik Beasley from not being a first-round draft pick is his injuries. I feel like if he was 100% healthy, he would probably just be right after the lottery, probably around in the ranges of pick 20 and 23. Number 35 of the Suns with Damian Jones, the power forward out of Vanderbilt. Number 36 are the Bucks with Malcolm Brogdon, the shooting guard of Virginia. Now this is something the Bucks really need. They need somebody that can shoot the three-point ball, that they can shoot from anywhere on the court, and Malcolm Brogdon fits that bill. Number 37 are the Rockets with Chinu Anuku, the center out of Louisville. The Rockets kind of need some size, especially if Dwight Howard. Well, if some team wants Dwight Howard, they're going to need somebody to replace the size of Dwight Howard. And he can fit that. He can fit that price. Number 30, you have the Bucks with Gerard Uthoff, the shooting forward, the small forward out of Iowa. I mean, with his size, he's not really a small forward. But I did not really have him. Because I didn't really have him toward... I only had him at about pick 50. He was within the last 10 picks. But I feel like his stock has moved up. The closer we get to the draft, the more his stock kind of moves up. Number 39 of the Pelicans go with Isaiah Cordiner, the shooting guard of France. Number 40, I have the Pelicans go with Anthony Barber, the point guard out of North Carolina State. Number 41, I have the Magic going with Paul Zipser, the small forward out of Germany. Number 42, I have the Jazz going with somebody that they probably need on that team. I kind of get maybe some Gordon Hayward vibes, maybe. And probably with the next guy they'll draft in a couple of picks. Spoiler alert. Gary Payton II. They need somebody that can shoot. Kind of Trey Burke vibes, kind of Gordon Hayward vibes. somebody that can fit on the Jazz team really nicely. Number 43 out of the Rocks with Kris LeVert, shooting guard of Michigan. Some people think any other year he's probably a first-round pick, and truthfully he probably is. But injuries have prevented him from being on the court. Number 44 of the Hawks with Purdue Corneille, the power forward out of France. Now they need this pick just in case they can't re-sign, for example, Al Horford. Just in case they can't re-sign Kent Bazemore. They need somebody with size and somebody that can shoot. And the Hawks will draft somebody that can shoot as well at pick 54, so stay tuned. 45 the Celtics with Jake Layman, small forward of Maryland. He has size as well. He couldn't be classified as a small forward. I feel like his size and his strength is going to be a huge attribute for the Boston Celtics. 46 the Magic with Ray Zagaruk, small forward out of Serbia. 47 the Magic going with Gershon Yabelsley, the power forward out of France. 40 out of the Bulls with Isaiah Whitehead, the shooting guard of Seton Hall. This is kind of a must pick for the Bulls. If they can attempt to re-sign Joakim Noah or Jimmy Butler, if they can't, the pick of Skal Labissiere helps. And now, if they can't re-sign Jimmy Butler, the pick of Isaiah Whitehead helps. Because I got to see Isaiah Whitehead throughout the Big East Conference tournament, and he just lit it up. He's a really good three-point shooter. He's really good with his mid-range. He's got to work on the close shots a little bit. Kind of work on all ranges. 49 of the Pistons with Michael Jabinajay, the shooting guard of Syracuse. Another person I got to watch throughout the conference tournaments and NCAA tournaments. Really helped out Syracuse in that Final Four run. Number 50, another person I got to see throughout March Madness. The Indiana Pacers going with Marcus Paige, the point guard out of North Carolina. Marcus Paige, he really grew. Seeing him at the start of the season, they questioned for his inability to make threes. But then, once we got to the later part of the season, he started to shoot threes. When we saw the counter from him, he started to shoot threes. When we got to March Madness, he was able to shoot threes. Kind of like there was no tomorrow. It stuck out to me, especially the Indiana game, where he made about 5 or 6 3-pointers in a row. And then what also stuck out to me was the championship game. He knocked down 2 clutch threes to keep North Carolina in the game. He knocked down one to get him to within 2. Then he knocked down another one to tie the game. And what's probably nearly an impossible shot, which is unfortunately going to be the greatest shot that will never be remembered, unfortunately, because Kris Jenkins knocked down a 3-point buzzer. But Marcus Paige, he's going to find himself on an NBA team. It doesn't matter if he gets drafted or not. It just doesn't matter. An NBA team is going to want him. Number 51 of the Celtics with Pascal Siakam, power forward of New Mexico State. Now, he was a really good player with New Mexico State. In fact, he led the team in rebounds and points per game. So I see they're getting some underrated talent a little bit. But is he going to be on the Celtics for that long, or is he just used for a trade? Number 52 have the Jazz going with Kyle Wiltshire, the power forward out of Gonzaga. Another great shooter that the Jazz need. He kind of gives me the Gordon Hayward vibes, the one that can make those deep 3-point shots. I'll kind of admit, I'm really big on these 3-point shooters, like Buddy Hield, like Jamal Murray, like Kyle Wiltshire, like Marcus Paige, like Isaiah Whitehead, like Gary Payton II. I'm really big on 3-point shooters. The 3-point shot is the momentum changers of a basketball game. And what they're getting is somebody that can change the momentum of a basketball game completely. That's what a 3-point shooter does. They change momentum of a basketball game. Your 53 have the Knights with Georgios Papagiannis, the center out of Greece. Number 54 of the Atlanta Hawks with Ron Baker, the point guard of Wichita State. Ron Baker, really underrated talent. Watched him throughout the 4 years of Wichita State. He grew as a prospect. In fact, I was hoping that him and Fred VanVleet were both going to be on NBA rosters. They both got drafted. because they're both class acts. They're both very respectful people. They're humble. They're down to earth. They deserve to be on an NBA team and get drafted. So Ron Baker goes to the Hawks. It's a must. If they can't re-sign Kent Bazemore or Al Horford, he can fit the bill for both. He can shoot the mid-range, and he can shoot a three-pointer like Kent Bazemore did, and mid-range jumpers like Al Horford. For 55, I have the Nets going with A.J. Hammonds, the center out of Purdue. Now, I believe in my NBA mock draft 1.0, he was in the late first round. But people sometimes question his size, his maturity, as kind of attributes. They question those. I feel like he'd be a first-round pick if it weren't for the questions about his size and his depth on a roster or his maturity. The number 56 on the Nuggets with Fred VanVleet, the point guard of Wichita State. Same thing with Ron Baker. Watching him for 4 years at Wichita State, especially in the year where they ran it all the way to the Final Four. Just him and Ron Baker have the experience of the big-time games in college basketball. And it's really going to help their respective NBA teams. Even if Fred VanVleet or Ron Baker don't get drafted, I feel like a team is going to sign both those players. Or at least one of those players. We're 57. I have the Grizzlies going with Wayne Selden, the shooting guard out of Kansas. Now, I feel like Wayne Selden should have returned. I feel like if he was in next year's draft class, he would be an obvious first-rounder. But he decided to come out this year. I think he's going to just get drafted within the last couple of picks. In fact, he's a really great player. Just such talent. Very underrated player. He can dunk really well. In fact, I got to see him a couple games, and I liked what I saw out of him. For 50 out of the Celtics, going with Daniel Hamilton, the shooting guard and small forward out of UConn. This is another two-dimensional player. The Celtics are probably going to at least have him on the team for a while, maybe set up a trade as well. Maybe the Celtics are going to draft some players that they want to just trade around with some teams to grab some veterans. I think Daniel Hamilton he would be a player that most teams would want. Number 59 of the Kings went George Niang, the small forward and point power forward of Iowa State. Now George Niang has the size. He's really tall. He could actually play center, in my opinion. In fact, I'm really surprised that a team has not really drafted him at this point or at least talked to him. I think the Kings are going to get a huge steal out of this one. Then the final pick number 6, had the Jazz going with Robert Carter, the power forward out of Maryland. So those are the 60 picks in my NBA mock draft 3.0. Who did I have too high? Who did I have too low? Let me just mention some other players that I hope find NBA teams. Yogi Ferrell out of Indiana. Ryan Arcidiacono out of Villanova. In fact, anybody on that Villanova team that's eligible, like Kris Jenkins or Josh Hart, I hope they really find NBA rosters when they get there. I hope Daniel House finds an NBA team. I hope that Jalen Jones finds an NBA team, both out of Texas A&M. I hope that Alex Caruso at Texas finds an NBA team. Because if you don't know his story, he was a ball boy as an 8-year-old at Texas A&M, and then he led him to the Sweet 16. Let's see who else do I hope finds an NBA team. I kind of hope that... Let's see, who do I... Anybody on the list, I hope they end up doing something with basketball, whether if it's coaching, playing overseas. Because this is a really talented draft class that we have. I mean, I always say that last year's was more talented than this year's, but this year we have some talented players. Like we have Buddy Hield, Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, Jamal Murray. We even have Denzel Valentine, Bryce Johnson, Teron Prince, Domantas Sabonis, Poeltl, Thon Maker, Tyler Ulis, Diamond Stone, Malcolm Brogdon, Steven Zimmerman, Gary Payton II, Jake Layman, Isaiah Whitehead, Kyle Wiltshire, Marcus Page, A.J. Hammonds, Ron Baker, George Niang, Fred VanVleet. Just so many talented players that I've gotten to see over the years of watching basketball. It's always a gift to watch NBA players that start off as rookies and come into legends. It's just such an exciting thing to watch throughout, no matter what sport it is. You just hope that all your favorites in college get to find an NBA team, or at least do something with basketball. So that's going to do it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Follow my sports Twitter account at JBTalkSports. Email me for future video suggestions, birthdayjohnny@gmail.com. Also like my new Facebook page. I've been putting it in the description box lately, but I'll try to remember this one. Anyway, have a great day, everyone. I will see you next time.